You're in darkness. Sure. Locked in chains. Bound by lies. Oh, you're broken-hearted. You feel you're worthless. You're abandoned. Oh. Jesus knows and He takes care of you.
From a place of rejection, Christ's care has welcomed me into the family of God, and I am now a beloved child of the King.
Worthless, Jesus knows and He takes care of you.
I was once defined by my worthlessness, but Christ's grace has refined me as a beloved and treasured child of God.
You're broken-hearted. Jesus knows and He takes care of you.
I was broken-hearted, but Christ's compassion and care have made me whole again, and I am now accepted and beloved.
You're bound by lies. Jesus knows and He takes care of you.
Lies held me captive, but Christ's love and care has liberated me.
You're chained. Jesus knows and He takes care of you.
From a prison of shame and guilt, Christ's grace has released me into the liberty of His love.
You're in darkness. Jesus knows and He takes care of you.
I once was lost in darkness, but Christ's love has appointed me to a new path of light and purpose.
Jesus knows and He takes care of you. God bless you. Thank you. You can sit down. So, as you have seen today, we are exploring an incredible theme. Jesus knows and He takes care of you. Have you ever felt like you are walking through a dark valley, unsure of what's ahead of you? Maybe you are facing a challenge that seems unconquerable, or an uncertainty that keeps you up at night. You are not alone. In fact, one of the most iconic figures in the Bible, David, faced his own shares of uncertainties. For instance, you remember Absalom's rebellion. You remember Bathsheba and Uriah's scandal. You remember kingdom threats, leadership challenges, military battles, King Saul's rebellion, and Goliath. Even so, God still cared for him. So let's explore this theme together. Jesus knows, He takes care of you. Let's discover how David's story can inspire us to trust in God's care, even when the road ahead seems uncertain. Let's find comfort in knowing that Jesus is our good shepherd, guiding us through life's challenges and ultimately leading us to greener pastures. For those who love history, you realize that in the year 1923, the League of Nations sent Italy to resolve a border dispute between Greece and Albania. General Enrico Tellini, an Italian military officer, was part of the delegation sent to resolve the dispute. On August 27, 1923, General Tellini and 4 others were shot and killed by unknown soldiers who were playing hide and seek at the border between Greece and Albania. As we approach the close of time, Ellen White writes, as we approach the close of time, as the people of God stand upon the borders of the heavenly Canaan, Satan will, as of old, redouble his efforts to prevent them from entering the goodly land. He lays his snares for every soul. Demons are now playing hide and seek to the ambassadors of Christ, patriarchs and prophets, 4:57. Let's come back to the story of David. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 25. This is our case study. I'm sure we all know this story. It's about Goliath and the Israelites. They were fighting till Goliath said, "We don't need to fight. Just give us one person who will fight against me. If you win, you have won everyone. If you lose, then it means you have lost everything." So Saul, who was the king by then, he had to ask from his soldiers, who can stand against this giant? And everyone said no. He had to be extra creative and say, the one who accepts, I'll give you these 3 rewards. Number 1, I'll give you rich rewards. Number 2, you marry from the state house. And lastly, your family will be exempted from paying tax. So as David runs towards Goliath, he had these 3 rewards in his mind. I'm sure that's why his stone was so accurate, especially with reward number 2, marrying from the state house. And you all know that David was victorious as we read through, and Saul's daughter, as promised, should have been given to him immediately. But Saul was afraid of David and wanted him dead instead. So Saul, like many fathers, used his daughter for selfish purposes. As you read sometime later now, chapter 18, verse 17, sometime later. Chapter 18, verse 17.
Then Saul said to David, "Here is my older daughter, Merab. I will give her to you as a wife. Only be valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles."
And 19.
19. But it happened at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, and she was given to Adriel and Meholathai as a wife.
All right, prepare to read verse 20. So as you check verse 17 and verse number 19, you realize that David, by killing Goliath, he had already paid the bride price or lobola. But Saul is now inviting him again and saying, there's another chance. Second deal. If you fight the Philistines, I'm going to give you my daughter. The verse ends by saying, Saul said in his heart. It says what? So, verse 17.
Verse 17. Then Saul said to David, "Here is my older daughter Merab. I will give her to you as a wife. Only be valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles." For Saul asked,
Yes, there.
"Let my hand not be against him, but let the hand of the Philistines
Be
be
upon
against
him.
him."
So he's saying, I'm sure as he goes to fight again the second time, they might kill him. At least it's not me who killed him, but he is dead because I want him dead. That was the idea. Verse number 20.
Verse 20. Now Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him.
Verse 21, last verse.
So Saul said, "I will give her to him, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him." Therefore Saul said to David,
It's all right. You can leave it. So, if you have checked from verse, the first verses, you realize that David went to war and he fought. He missed. The second time he was said, "Come, go and fight, then I'll give her unto you." He went. When he came back, instead of being given, what happened? The daughter was given to she was given to Adriel, given to another man, after working for her, after fighting for her, after paying lobola, she was given to another man. Then some time later, Saul heard that the young sister loves David. And he said, oh, good. I'm going to give David my daughter for the third time. Not to be wife, but to be a? When I was reading this one, I realized that there are many reasons why many people goes to the altar called marriage. But anyway, so as you examine this piece, I want you to keep in mind that this is the visible piece. Something more significant is happening behind the veil. And we'll take a moment to try connect the dots. So as we connect the dots now, I want to set before you this set of questions. Based on the above scripture, have you ever wondered why is David here a victim of his faithfulness and integrity? Why is David a victim of his faithfulness and integrity? Saul wanted somebody to fight for him. He went to fight. Saul said, go and fight the Philistines. He went to fight. But in return, he was not given what he was promised. Why is David becoming a victim of his faithfulness and integrity? As you have read before, Jesse had enough servants hired to take care of his wealth. But why does the Bible mention of David alone taking care of the sheep in the field, yet he had 7 brothers? Have you ever asked yourself why? You know, David frequently talks of enemies, especially when you read through Psalm chapter 69, verse 4. Why talking of enemies when he had 7 brothers who should be fighting for him? Why do we also encounter David sometimes risking his life by taking the prey from the mouth of dangerous animals? You remember those stories, right? From the mouth of the? And the mouth of the? All right. Then, from this story, why did Jesse send the youngest son, who is David, to see how his brothers were? Come from where you are. I want you to go to where your brothers are and check how they are fighting. So David was taken from where he was with the sheep. Yet at home, there were 3 brothers who were there. Then they asked him to go dangerous fields alone to just check how his brothers were. Why risking his life? And as you check, or we can skip this one. Our special passage of focus, 1 Samuel chapter 16. When Samuel came to anoint king on Jesse's family, why is also David not part of the special family event? Have you ever asked why? Anyway, some background information about this may help us appreciate why. Some of the background will be found in the book Psalm chapter 69, then 1 Samuel chapter 16. And as you read Psalm chapter 69, it describes the voice of a tormented soul who has experienced untold humiliation and disgrace. Though no apparent cause of his own, he is surrounded by enemies who wish to cut him down. Even his own brothers are said to be strangers to him. This psalm, in which King David passionately gives voice to the heaviest burdens of his soul, refers to a period of 28 years from his earliest childhood. So it's about 28 years of his childhood. As you all know, David was the son of, and Jesse served as the head of the Sanhedrin, which is the supreme court of the Torah law, and was one of the distinguished leaders of his generation. So David's father, Jesse, was the son of? Jesse was the son of? I forgive you. David's father, Jesse, was the son of Obed. Do you agree? Who was the son of? Well done. Who was the son of Boaz, who married Ruth, a Dash woman, a Moabite woman? So Jewish traditional law forbids forbid a Hebrew woman to marry a Moabite man. The Torah specifically forbids an Israelite to marry a Moabite convert, since this is the nation that cruelly refused the Jewish people passage, food, or land after they were freed from Egypt. So as you read, according to Jewish tradition, according to Jewish tradition, Boaz, who married who? Who married Ruth, died a day after he and Ruth were married. Their marriage is recorded in Ruth chapter 4. Obed was then born, though his father was dead. And Obed was then viewed as illegitimately born, as was his own son, Jesse. So Jesse, sometime later, he then married a Jewish girl, and her name was Nizaveth. And they had 7 sons together. So sometime later, thoughts of Moabite blood from forefathers made him to start suspecting that his lineage was polluted. And he agreed in love to stop marital relationships with his wife. So Jesse, wanting a legitimate heir, years later, he approached a Canaanite maid servant. Say, I want to marry you and have children together. She said, it's all right. But after saying all right, she had to go to Nizaveth and suggested a bold counterplan. She says, let us learn from your ancestresses, because your husband is coming home tonight. Let's learn from your ancestresses and replicate their actions. Switch places with me tonight, just as Leah did with Rachel. So months later, we are fast forwarding, Nizaveth's stomach started to grow. And the 7 sons, they realized that it's not Sadza. Something is happening here. And they thought of stoning her because of adultery. But the father, because he was a revered leader of his generation, he said, my sons, please, let's not do it. But the world should know that it's not me who did it. So they listened to their father. So sometime later, a young man then grew up in a family which he was despised and rejected and shunned as an abominable outcast. You can check Psalm chapter 69, verse 7 and 8. I think we can read that one. That will be our last verse. So noting the conduct of his brothers, the rest of the community assumed that this youth was a deceitful sinner, full of unspeakable guilt. Verse 7 and 8.
Psalm 69, verse 7. Because for your sake I have borne reproach, shame has covered my face. 8. I have become a stranger to my brothers, and an alien to my mother's children.
12.
12. Those who sit in the gate speak against me, and I am the song of the drunkards.
You can leave it there as we close now with 1 Samuel 16. So noting the conduct of his brothers and the rest and the family members, the rest of the community, they assumed this youth is a deceitful sinner, full of unspeakable guilt. Anyone who missed anything will say, he's the thief. The drunkards will say, this boy. That was the case for this young man. So he had to cry as you read verse 21, 28, 29. God, when are you coming to redeem me? Because everyone is shunning me. Even my own brothers and my parents, they are shunning me. How long, Lord, will you keep silent? When are you coming? And the Lord had to be silent for 28 years until he responded after 28 years, as we read now, 1 Samuel chapter 16. You may not read it, you know it already. So 1 Samuel chapter 16, God had to intervene now. And God through Samuel said, Samuel, this is a godly business. I want you to go and anoint the next king. Enough is enough. Samuel said, Lord, you know, if I go there, Saul will deal with me. Then God said, don't worry, you're going to play it out. And God had to border jump Samuel into the land so that he can go and do God's business. As you read the few verses, you realize that Samuel asked Jesse to bring his family, but there was someone who was missing. Who was that one? Imagine it's a special family event, and the prophet has said, bring your family, bring your children here. But he decides to leave one of his children. It was a deliberate move. Back of his mind, he knew that it's not mine. So when you check through, God said, I'm going to tell you what to do. This is what God told Samuel. So as they were coming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, God was just saying, no. I want to prove a point. Not this one, not this one, not this one. I want to prove a point. As you check now verse number 11, that's where we have a call for David. Are all your sons here? Then he said, there's a small boy who's not here. He said, no, we can't sit to celebrate. Go invite him so that we celebrate together. So a call for David was made in verse number 11. And out of respect, because one of the servants was sent to call him from the field, and out of respect of the Old Testament prophet, he had to dash home to wash himself and change the clothes. After changing the clothes, as he was on his way now, through the window, the mother noticed, my son, for the past 28 years, I never saw you coming home during the day. What are you doing here? If your brothers and your father found you here, they would destroy you. What are you doing here? Said, cool down, mom. They've called me, so I'm going there. Then mother said, I will accompany you. I'll never let you go alone. So as you read verse 12, God had to say, Samuel, my anointed one is standing before you. And you remain seated. No, stand up, arise, and anoint him. So as Samuel was anointing David, the sound of weeping could be heard from outside the great hall. It was the voice of Nisabeth, David's lone supporter and solitary source of comfort. Yet 28 long years of silence in the face of humiliation were finally coming to a close. At last, all would see that the lineage of a youngest son was pure, undefiled by any blemish. So she had to walk inside the hall. And facing her 7 sons, she exclaimed the words of Psalm 118, verse 22. She said, the stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone. Humbled, they replied, according to verse 23, this has come from God. It was hidden from our eyes. Those in the hall cried out in unison, verse 24, this is the day the Lord has made. We will surely rejoice and be glad in it. Let's close now. You remember I asked you some questions, right? I'm sure you answered yourself. But in case, let me just answer one, then we can close. So the reason why David decided to rescue the prey from those dangerous animals, the lions, it's because his father, every day he would take census, and David would account for any missing animal. So David said, I would rather die fighting this enemy and lion than to face the beloved enemy at home and count for the missing sheep. I would rather die trying to rescue the prey from the mouth of this dangerous animal than to face the beloved enemy at home. So he went to the dangerous fields alone because his father, like Saul, hoped he would die there. At least it's not me who killed him, but he's dead because it's not mine. So this phase, dear church, in David's life, his first 28 years, it unveils the reality of the great controversy. Satan, knowing that the Messiah would come through the lineage of David, he wanted to destroy David from the root, thereby tampering with the plan of salvation. You remember Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, where God said, I'm going to create an enmity between you two. A seed that is going to come from this woman is going to crush your, but in the interim, you have access to bruise her heel. So God was announcing his plan on how he was going to save us and how he was going to deliver us. So his plan was, you will have access to deal with them. But don't worry, there is a seed that is going to come from this woman. And that seed is going to crush your... God was announcing the plan of salvation. And do you think after God announced his plan on how he was going to deal with the devil had to sit, relax, wait for that time when the promised seed will come and destroy him? No. Immediately we are told after Genesis chapter 3, the devil had to convene a council to say, demons, come here. I'm coming from a meeting with God. And he said, a seed that is going to come from that woman is going to destroy my head. You know what? I managed to deceive intelligent beings, a third of you. I managed to deceive sinless beings, Adam and Eve. And God is saying, a sinner is going to destroy me. No way. We need to devise strategies to counter God's plan. So I need strategies. So they came out with strategies. I love two strategies that they came up with. Strategy number one that came out from this meeting was, I think we can, since this seed will be born, grow, then will come and destroy us. Let's destroy that seed before it destroys us. Destroy the seed before it destroys us. That's powerful suggestion. We need another one in case it fails. Suggestion number two, we need to disqualify the seed. How do we disqualify the seed? We disqualify the seed by causing that seed to break one of the 10 commandments. If you break one of the 10 commandments, you become part of us. You are now fighting with us, not fighting against God. Then they say, powerful. That's why now when you read Genesis chapter 4, it's after 3:15. Chapter 4, Genesis 4:1, we see the introduction of the first children on this world. This was good news to Adam and Eve to say, these are potential seeds that are going to destroy the devil. Then I'll have access to go back to the Garden of Eden. But to the devil, he's saying, these are potential seeds that needs to destroy me. I need to activate my counter plans, either one or two. That's why you read that Cain did what to Abel? Cain killed Abel. So Abel was destroyed using strategy number one. Destroy the seed before it destroys you. And by enticing Cain to kill Abel, Cain was also disqualified. And he went back to God. God, show me any evidence on planet Earth where your plan of salvation is working. Because everyone is replicating my image. Check the whole of Genesis. Everyone was trying to replicate the devil's image. Check Abraham. When it was known that through Abraham, the Messiah is going to come. Chapter 12, he lied. She's my sister. Chapter 20, 21, she lied again to Absalom. She's my sister. Why? Because liars will not go to heaven. It was the devil's idea to infuse it in Abraham so that once he lies, he is disqualified. Later, Abraham, you see him marrying another wife. What's happening? The devil is trying to disqualify Abraham so that he will not stand in the line of salvation. And you see, David comes now 3 years from creation, or a year, 3,000 years from creation, or 1,000 years from before Christ. And he's here. It was well known that through David, the Messiah was going to come, the one who was going to deliver us. And you think the devil was going to sit and relax, seeing the boy growing faithfully? No. He said, we need to deal diligently with this boy. Let's play hide and seek so that we deal with this boy. Because we don't want him to further the Messiah. Anyway, let's close. God's plans, dear church, they know no haste and they know no delay. At the rightful time, God had to intervene and defend his plan. So it was undoubtedly from his mother that the young David absorbed the fortitude and courage to face his adversaries. From the moment he was born and during his most tender years, it was Nisbeth who by example taught him the essential lesson of valuing every individual's dignity and refraining from embarrassing another regardless of the personal consequences. It is from Nisbeth that King David absorbed the strength born from an inner confidence to disregard the callous treatment of the world and find solace in the comfort of one's maker. A display of patient confidence in the Creator that justice would be saved gave David the inner peace and solace that he would need over and over again in confronting the formidable challenges in life. So David learned from his mother to stand proud and dignified, feeling consolation in communicating with his maker in the open pastures. So the book of Psalms gives a voice to each of us and has become the balm to soothe all our wounds as we too encounter many personal and communal hardships of life. So as we read these verses, our voices mesh, our voices network with Nizaveth's, with David's, and all the past and present who have experienced unjustified pain in beseeching our Maker for that time when the Son of David, who is Jesus, will usher in the era of redemption, which is the second coming. And true justice on that day will diffuse. True justice on that day will suffice all creation. And all of us will join David in saying, I was glad when they said, let us go to the house of the Lord. So today, dear church, we have seen that the great controversy is an ongoing reality, and thus we are only safe in Jesus' arms. Jesus invites us to surrender all to him, for he knows what you are going through and he cares for you. So let us answer to his call. May God bless you.